Alright, in this video, I want to talk about a little bit of what I was mentioning in my last video about church and state coming together and what would happen. But now I want to talk about something that branches from that, about Christians letting the state raise their children and how they're entitled to the state teaching them what they want and not what non-Christians want. And this just shows the lukewarm worldliness of Christians, where the Bible tells us that we are to be in the world but not of the world. That friendship with the world is enmity with God. That the God of this world is Satan. That the kingdoms of this world belong to Satan. And for some reason, you want to be part of the world, get in with the government, and have them raise your children while you go to work. And you think that should all be all fine and dandy. Like the whole responsibility of educating your child, not just in English, math, social studies, and all that, but also with religion. Like they should have the prayers and the Bibles in there too. But what about what everybody else wants? Because there's people who are from a different denomination than you are. There's atheists, there's Muslims, and Buddhists, there's other people of different religions, and you want to impose your religion on them. Right? So why are you giving your children over to the state that is supposed to take care of everybody, to raise your child and to expect them to raise them the way you want as a Christian? This is stupidity. And you think that you have to be part of this system where you could actually, if you cared about your Christian values that much, you could be like the Amish. Not that you have to be Amish and believe what the Amish believe, but you can go live like the Amish and have your community where you're separated from the state and you raise your own children and you teach them what you want them to know, and you don't have to worry about them also being mingled with atheists and Muslims and whatever else, right? You don't have to worry about them teaching them about homosexuality and transgender. You don't have to worry about all that because you're taking care of your own children. You're not letting the state do it. So when you're sitting here upset about the state teaching all these things to children, why do you send your children into it? Why? You know how they are. They remove prayer, they remove Bibles from the schools. That should have been your sign to be like, all right, well, I removed my child from the school. Instead, no, you still feed your children into this monster and then complain about what they're teaching them. Well, how about you take responsibility for your own children and protect them from the system, take them out of the schools, homeschool them, and then take the responsibility of raising them yourselves instead of complaining about it. Complaining about how somebody else is freely raising your children, you're going to complain about it when they have to accommodate not just for you, but all the other different beliefs as well. So I just wanted to make this quick video because I was watching a video where somebody, as a Christian, was defending Christians getting into politics because they were saying that, oh, there's Christians that say we shouldn't get into it. It's like, yeah, you're in the world but not of it, right? Friendship with the world is enmity with God, and you're trying to conform a fallen, sinful world that's run by Satan to fit what you want it to be. You're too concerned about your life here and raising your family and thinking you need to be connected to the world and everything in it. Why? Separate yourself from it. Be the peculiar people that God wants you to be. Separate from it. But anyway, that's why I was saying in the last video, if you were a Christian, you would stay out of politics. If you were into politics, you would probably generally stay in the middle, not left or right. right? Like the Bible says, don't go to the left or the right. Stay straight on the path there. But I would think, ultimately go more towards the left, because even though there's a lot of evil there, it's freedom. So you can still be a Christian. Yeah, people may also have the freedom to do everything else and mock and scoff you, but that's for your benefit. That actually separates the wheat from the tares and separates the true Christians from the false Christians, because when you go completely into the left, and let's say the left is running everything, only the true Christians are going to stick to Christianity, because they're not going to want to deal with the persecution. They're not going to want to deal with being mocked and scoffed and humiliated, and things get worse, right? They're not going to want to deal with that. So then you get to see who the true Christians are. When you go over to the right and they start supporting the church, well, then you got everybody and their mother going to pretend to be Christian because it's beneficial. It's beneficial to their ideas of how the family should run, just like you have a lot of these atheists, like Peterson and Dawkins, saying that they're cultural Christians now. But they don't even believe in God, but they're cultural Christians because they see how it's beneficial to society. So you see, you got all these fake Christians. And they want the government to raise their children, and not only that, raise other people's children to also follow their same beliefs. This is not the Christian way. And you're deceiving yourself if you think it is. And you're worried about, well, it could be like a Muslim country. It could be like China, the church is persecuted. Good. What's wrong with that? Because you're only Christian because it's comfortable? That seems to be the only excuse here, because when you make that separation and they persecute the church, then the true Christians stand out, and then you can actually reach people. You can get people saved, because when you have it all lukewarm, the people think they're saved. Everybody on the right who's Christian, they think they're Christian just because they call themselves Christian, even though they want to impose Christianity on everybody, which is anti-Christian. But anyway, the point of this was, why should you care what the government is doing? How does it affect you and your beliefs? You can separate from it and raise your children apart from the federal government, the state government. You just don't want to do it. Well, if you don't want to be free, you want to be enslaved and stay in Egypt, because you get your leeks and your onions and stuff. You get all your fruits and vegetables and your food supplied very easily to you. Well, then shut up and stop complaining about how your slave masters run things, because they're going to run it how they want. They're the master, you're the slave. So shut up. Stop complaining. If you got a problem, come out from it. Set yourself free. But with that being said, thanks for watching and take care. All right. I wanted to splice this in, doing some more venting. I wanted to talk a little bit more about how I'm not left, I'm not right. I'm in the middle, and since you can't really be in the middle, I'm not really into politics such as voting, because I would want it to be where someone actually perfectly represents me, and that's just not going to happen, right? I don't want to have close enough. I'm an all or nothing kind of guy, right? So I wanted to talk about some points such as abortion. This seems to be one of the dividing lines with the left and right, and I'm actually on both sides, and that may sound strange, but let me explain. I agree with the right that you shouldn't get an abortion, but I'm with the left that you should have the freedom to do what you want. You don't have to do what I want, right? I'm not the boss of you, right? You don't have to believe what I believe. That's what I believe. So I agree with the right where, hey, if you don't want a child, don't have sex or have protected sex. And if you still get pregnant, well, then you're just gonna, you gotta deal with that, right? This is where I've grown to, right? having to take responsibility. And that's kind of tough, easier to say than to actually do, right? But this is where I've come to at my point in life that you should deal with that. But at the same time, I believe in freedom, where that shouldn't be forced on you. If you want to be irresponsible with your sex life and get pregnant, but you don't want to deal with that pregnancy because you don't like the man you're with, your living situation, financially and all that stuff, whatever your issue is, or you just want to continue to do your life traveling around and living it up, whatever your excuse is for not wanting a child. I understand something like if you were raped or some kind of incestual thing. Yeah, that makes sense. But most abortions are just because people are scared to have the child or don't want to take responsibility for the child, but they still want to have sex and unprotected sex at that, right? So, there's consequences, right? So, I believe you should have the freedom to go be irresponsible and then deal with the consequences of either having a child or deal with the consequences of aborting the child, right? Because it might not bother you while you're young, but as you get older, you might go back and think about, well, what if I did have that? And then your conscience will get to you, so you might deal with that years down the line. And it's something God can use to then get you to come to Him. So I believe in having that freedom, the freedom even to mess up and to do stupid things and to disagree with me and to live a completely different life than what I think you should live, because who am I to tell you how to live and how not to live? This is just my opinion, my 2 cents, right? And if somebody else had a different point of view, that's great. But I wouldn't want them to push it on me and force me to have to follow their point of view. So that's where I'm actually in the middle on this, and that's why I can't go left or right. Well, I would actually say on this point of view, I would go more left, because at least you have the freedom where if you vote left concerning abortion, you can still not have an abortion. You're not forced to have one. So you can still practice your freedom of not having one while allowing others to have the freedom to do what they want to do. But the main reason why I'm actually doing this video on this topic right now is because I had a couple of videos pop up where people are talking about what happened with this election, where the girlfriend or the wife voted Democrat, but the husband voted Republican. And because of this, the girlfriend broke up with the boyfriend. The wife wants a divorce. And I didn't understand why. I was like, the only thing that I think is an issue concerning women, other than Trump is like a misogynistic douchebag. I get that, but that's no reason to break up with your boyfriend or your husband, right? Or at least I don't see that as a justified reason to break up and get divorced. But the only thing I can think of that concerns women and their freedom would be actual abortion. And these women want to do this thing called 4B, where they basically refuse to marry, have children, date, and have sexual relations with men. And basically a female version of MGTOW, where men go their own way, because of this. And I thought that was kind of strange, because I was taking it from a point of view, if I was in a relationship, whether dating a lady for a while, that maybe we're going to get married, or I was married to a woman who was going to divorce me or break up with me because I'm not for abortion. Right? Let's say I voted against it, and then they were like, well, you're going against my freedom, so I don't want to be with you. My point of view would be like, okay, well, then I don't want to be with you. Because if we're in a relationship together, but you want the freedom to be able to abort my child against my will, you're not truly committed to me, right? I can't trust you. You still want the ability to run away or walk away if you want to. That just shows me we're not connected, right? So, okay, let's do the divorce. Let's break up because yeah, you're not obviously not as connected to me as I am to you. We don't feel the same way about each other. You want to be able to run away if you change your mind in the future. You're not happy in the future. You want to be able to leave. Okay. Well, then I don't want to waste my time now with you, right? I want to put my time into somebody who isn't worried about not being able to have an abortion, right? If they're upset because they don't have the ability to go have an abortion and they're going to break up with me because of that, and then they're going to claim to be celibate now, uh, or attempt to, or whatever, that's not somebody I want to be with anybody anyway, right? Uh, but I guess I'm not able to see it from the woman's point of view, but that's the only way me trying to can make sense of why they did what they did by trying to get away from their significant others. Is they're not actually committed to that person, which I would say that guy dodged a bullet. Like if that's why they're gonna leave him, well then that guy dodged a bullet because that's not the kind of woman you want to be with anyway, right? But at the same time, I agree with the whole freedom thing. I believe you should have the freedom, and I like that kind of freedom because it does things like this. It reveals people's character. Like you think you're really close to somebody, and that you really connect, and you have a lot of the similar views, and then all of a sudden they vote completely the opposite, right? And then they're willing to break up over a certain issue that you didn't think was as a big a deal as they did. And then you really get to see that person, what they truly care about. They care more about themselves or their freedom or their whatever over the relationship, over you, right? Over the family that you may have or want to have, right? So that's why I love freedom, because when you do something even like have the church mix with the state, where basically the whole country is indoctrinated through the school system to follow a certain religion, uh, you don't really know if all those people truly believe, or they're just going along with it because they were indoctrinated into it, because they're forced into it, because they're punished if they don't do what is required of them. So you got a bunch of people who, they're all calling themselves Christian because they grew up in a Christian nation where it's taught to them day and night, right? And drilled over to them. But you don't know if they truly believe it and accept it because they don't have the freedom to go against it. Or freedom, the people who don't want to be Christian can go away and not be Christian. So then you can see, oh, okay, now we can see the difference. And I also like it when Christians don't get benefited by the country they're in for being Christian, because then it's easy to be Christian because you're not being persecuted for it. Again, making it hard to see whether or not those Christians are really Christian or not, because the state is actually supporting them and catering to them. But when the nation isn't catering to them, but then those Christians still do the Christian thing and still stand up for Christ and still preach the gospel, well, then that's a Christian. Because what benefit do they got in being a Christian? None, right? Not in this world anyway, right? So I like freedom, even when it's the freedom to do stupid things, self-destructive things, things that even are destructive to the nation. Because all these things allow you to divide the good from evil, the wheat from the tares, the sheep from the goat, true Christians from false Christians. It allows you to divide the things up instead of having it all confused and mixed together where you're not quite sure. Right? You're just not sure at all. It's all mixed together. So the freedom is great in that. And even the persecution is great. I think it would be good for all of us. It'd be good for Christianity if the state wasn't for us like it is claiming to be right now. Because ultimately, it's going to turn on the true Christians who speak out against it. But anyway, that's that. Thanks for watching. Take care.